Java supports the use of multi-dimensional arrays. Just as with simple arrays, a multi-dimensional array contains items all of the same data type, and once the sizes of the dimensions of the array have been set, you can't change them at runtime. I'll show you how to use a multi-dimensional array in this empty project, 2D arrays. I'll start by declaring the array. This is going to be a multi-dimensional array of strings. So I'll start with the data type, followed by open bracket, close bracket. But because this is going to be a two-dimensional array, I add another pair of brackets. Next, I assign the array name. I'll call it states. Then, after the equals assignment operator, you put in the new keyword. Once again, you put in the data type. And now, just as with simple arrays, you declare the array size, but now you're declaring both the top-level dimension and the child dimension. I'll set the size of my top-level dimension at 3 and my child dimension at 2. Now, my goal is to create a primary array of 3 items, each one representing a state. And then within the secondary array or child array, there will be 2 items, one for the name of the state and one for its capital. Now I'll set the values. Use similar syntax to set values. I'll start with states, bracket 0, bracket 0, the first item in the first primary array. And I'll set that to a value of California. Next, I'll create the second item in the first primary array using the syntax states, bracket 0, bracket 1. And I'll set that to the name of the capital of California, Sacramento. Now I'm going to copy and paste those 2 lines of code a couple of times. I'll create 2 new copies. And for the second pair, I'll change the primary array item to 1. And for the third pair, I'll set the primary array item to 2. Now I'll set the values. The second state will be Oregon, and its capital is Salem. And for the third pair, I'll use Washington and Olympia. Now to output these values, I'm going to use a loop inside a loop. I'll use 2 for loops, and I'll manage my output by using a string builder object to build strings for each combination of state name and capital. I'll start by typing the word for and pressing Control space, and I'll choose for, iterate over array. In the primary for loop, the integer counter variable will be named I, and I'll be looping through the primary array. This syntax is the same as for a simple array. I'm iterating through the primary dimension, the one that has 3 items. Then I'll click into the primary for loop and I'll add a secondary for loop. I'll once again type for and choose iterate over array. And this time Eclipse knows that I've already used the variable I, so it uses the variable j for the secondary counter. Now to make sure that I'm iterating over the secondary array, I'll place the cursor after the name of the array, states, and I'll add bracket I bracket. So now I have an outer loop and an inner loop. Now my goal is each time through the loop, I'm going to output the state name and its capital all in a single line. To put it together, I'll declare a string builder. I'll put the declaration and initialization of the string builder in the outer loop, so then I can manipulate and append to it in the inner loop. So I'll set the data type to string builder and its variable name to SB, and I'll initialize it. Within the for loop, I'm simply going to add the values to the string builder using sb.append, and I'll output states, open bracket I, open bracket j. And then after the for loop, I'll use a printline command to output the string builder to the console. System.out.println, and I'll just refer directly to the string builder object. I'm not quite done yet, but let's see the results so far. I'll save and run the application, and I'm seeing that I'm successfully getting both the state name and its capital output to the same line. So now I need to add a little bit of conditional logic so I can separate those values. I'll go to the inner loop, and I'll add some conditional code. I'll type if and press Control space and choose the if statement, and I'll set the condition to if j has a value of 0. So if I'm working on the state name, then j will have a value of 0. And before I append the state name, I want to append a little bit of text. So I'll say sb.append. I'm appending a string to the existing string builder. And so now the text should say the capital of, and then the name of the state. Let's check that. The capital of California. So now all I have to do is separate those two values. And I'll use an else clause for that. If I'm just about to append the capital name to the string builder, I'll put in a space, the word is, and another space. And let's see how I'm doing. And now I have sensible output. The capital of California is Sacramento, the capital of Oregon is Salem, and so on. So I've successfully organized my data into a multi-dimensional array. Now the strength of this approach is that if you know exactly how much data you're going to be working with, it's a pretty straightforward process to store it in memory and then access it at runtime. If, on the other hand, you have to be able to expand the array or shrink it at runtime because you don't know how much data you're going to be dealing with, and you can't just declare the array and then deal with a fixed size, then you should start looking at the ArrayList class instead. And I'll talk about that in another video.